Well, I have to explain that I am part of the Cornish diaspora.
Yes.
In 1961, I was sent from this country by my company to go and be at the headquarters in America in Cincinnati, Ohio, for 2 years. And my explanation is that inertia crossed the Atlantic with me and I never came back. But I was born and bred in Cornwall, in this hive of creative industry in Viscount, with my friend Ian here.
This Viscount couch, this is. It may leave before the end of the drive. Sorry, Richard.
And I was in the middle of Cornish things. My father was the editor of the Cornish Times. My brother-in-law wrote the volume on Cornwall for the National Trust. My parents were members of the Old Cornwall Society and took me on expeditions. My father was the Bard of the Gorset. My blood was injected in infusions of Cornish air and sea. So when I got to America, my friends pointed out that I talked a lot about Cornwall. And I sort of, in the end, had to agree with them. So I started, when somebody said, would you do a lecture on the history and culture of Cornwall? I said, well, I will. And doing the research on that, I had more material than I had imagined I would ever discover. And basically use that as the basic research for the history. So I am a storyteller, I enjoy that. I studied history at the university. I combined the two, we called that historical fiction. And so Cornwall was, in many ways, Cornwall was the central character of my book. You know, I feel that the story of Cornwall is mine to tell, and I'm passionate about that. I chose the late 18th century largely because my history tutor at university wrote the book on the reign of George III. So there's a great, general background to that period. It was an exciting period. It was the dawn of the Industrial Revolution. Things were changing. It was the rise of Methodism. John Wesley is the character in my book. And
if I can interrupt, with that obvious great enthusiasm you have for Cornwall and for the times, historical times, is that what more or less drove the progress of your book and kept you effectively within the parameters you require? Because, as I think I said to you earlier, it's such a huge degree of detail of people's lives over a long period. Did you have to discipline yourself to stay very tightly within the...
I had to discipline myself and I had to let myself go.
Can you do both though?
Yes, and I started out with the good intention of writing an outline. Very methodical. Didn't happen. I belonged to a writers group that met on Monday mornings. So I had the deadline of Sunday evening to get something on paper. And I wrote it. If I didn't know what was going to happen next, at the end of the chapter I would say, and Willie Bunt had no idea what was going to happen next.
I love it. Fantastic. Yeah.
But as I went along, and of course the overall framework was the real history. But more and more what happened is that the characters were filling me, and it was their aspirations, their challenges that drove me along as we solved their problems, as we told the story. But what I had to do was to write summaries of the characters so that the descriptions were consistent. So that the villain who had grey eyes in chapter 1 did not turn out to have green eyes in chapter 7. And I did a retrospective outline with times and dates and seasons. So I kept myself straight, and then of course I rewrote the book 9 times to correct the errors.
As one does. Well, that's good. Now, Bridget, similarly, did you find that